All right, everyone, I hope you're feeling energized after lunch. We're here to kick things off in the afternoon sessions with Amplifying Retail with Generative AI and Mongodb Atlas with our friend here, Prashant Juttukonda, who's the Principal of Industry Solutions for Retail at Mongodb. So give it up for Prashant.
Thank you, Sam. Can you guys hear me? Okay. I can't hear myself, so I just want to make sure that you guys can hear me. So thanks everyone for joining this afternoon, and I hope that this session will take you through what's happening in the world, and AI is all the rage. But then there are certain things that we need to understand what this means. So I'm an industry principal for retail sector, so that name retail is only in the name, but whatever I'm going to describe here today, you would be able to apply those principles and then methodologies to everything, every industry that is out there. And another important aspect that I want to share with you that this is a 101. If anyone has more detailed questions about some of the machine learning algorithms or how you would be able to incorporate and adopt things, so that's conversation that we can have later. But then it is very important, essential, I felt that we actually need to get into fundamentals of AI, really knowing, understanding what this means. And every enterprise sits on humongous amounts of data that they'll be using. But then that data is proprietary and important for that enterprise itself. So what's happening now with the chat GPs of the world, and essentially that capability becoming available to the programming world, now opened up a whole whole set of opportunities. How you would be able to use them, what are the things that you need to be aware of, is what we'll talk about. So here's a quick agenda. What is generative AI? Right? There is AI, there is machine learning, there is different aspects to it, what exactly that means, and then why is it important for retail, or why is it important for an enterprise? And what are some of the use cases? How can we use this quote unquote generative AI for some of the use cases that are in retail? We'll briefly talk about it. And then where do I get started? Okay, this is cool. Now what do I do with this? How can I start working using this in my day-to-day, and what benefits that I can gain? But also most importantly, what are the things that I need to be aware of as an enterprise before I adopt this technology? That's a very important aspect that I will spend a little bit of time on. And then MongoDB, because we are here in the MongoDB .local, how can you aggregate the information or the data that you have, and how MongoDB helps you in accomplishing some of these tasks is we will talk about. So very quickly, let's get into what is artificial intelligence. Term used to identify the advanced computer systems, and use of machine learning. Machine learning is widely used. You all are familiar with that term, but then essentially there are a set of algorithms that are actually work on the data sets that you have that will help you identify certain patterns. It's not intelligence, it's certain patterns with machine learning that you will be able to evolve. And then using those patterns in the data, doing certain things with it, is actually an ability to learn from these examples. Like if you give a data set that is of a particular nature, essentially let's say go to Facebook, get all the misinformation that is out there and feed it to a machine learning system, and all the information that you get is wrong, completely biased, right? So it is important to understand that these are the pattern generation or patterns that these algorithms are learning. So the point that I wanted to make here is that garbage in, garbage out. So data quality does not, you cannot live without proper data quality, and for that you would need a database system or database platform that gives you an ability to control that data quality, right? And examples of machine learning means data. This is what we are talking about. What you want to provide, the data that you provide to these algorithms, and the quality of data essentially means the outcomes that you would see from these machine learning algorithms. And then artificial intelligence is to be able to make those decisions, make certain decisions as directed by the humans. For this machine learning is going to give you an ability to do certain things with it, right? So again, like I said, data is going to be is the most critical part of this entire journey. So having a strong data platform is going to be really important. That data platform should be secure, safe. We will go into more details about it. It has to be secure, it needs to be safe, it needs to have right quality, it needs to be able to manage and maintain, and it needs to scale. If you are trying to use machine learning in your enterprise, the most important thing is that how much data you are providing to that machine learning algorithm, and what type of evolution that you're seeing. How many of here you worked with the machine learning algorithms today? A few, that's cool. How many of you use ChatGPT? Whew, I knew it. So the reason why I asked that question, because ChatGPT has made it easy for people to understand what it can do for you. Writing the code, it is trained on 175 billion parameters. It knows many things that are before 2021, the free version, 2021. And then essentially what that means is that it knows the world in a certain way, and then it can give you the answers. But then, most importantly, let's go a little bit deeper before I jump into that. Artificial intelligence is perception, logic, and learning. The difference between machine learning and artificial intelligence is that an artificial intelligence has the capability of learning for the data that you're continuing to provide. Data essentially is the information to an artificial intelligence system. Now, subsequently within that, there is machine learning, the use of algorithms to learn from the data that you're supplying, whether it is data available on internet, data available in your enterprise, data available anywhere it can access. That's what it's going to use. The machine learning is going to use to learn from that data. And then finally, there is deep learning. There are a set of algorithms that actually enable these machine learning to be able to go a little bit deeper. So the perception that you're building is there are supervised and unsupervised. The perception that it is going to build and the learning that it's going to do can be guided with a set of parameters that is called supervised learning. Or you say that you figure out the relationship of the data that I'm providing you, and then you figure out what you want to do with it. That's going to be unsupervised learning. And majority of the systems these days are still, except the LLM that ChatGPTs of the world are predominantly supervised. LLMs are not supervised at this point in time, and you can actually begin to guide the data sets that you're sending in a specific manner to control the output that you want to do, right? So this is where generative AI falls. It's a deep learning machine learning mechanism where it takes the information that is available, provided to it, and then available to it, and then it begins to generate something more realistic, right? So generative AI network is essentially, it uses the information that is provided, learning from it based using the machine learning algorithms, and it will generate output that sounds like it is real. It is most natural way that you would interact with another human. That's where its capabilities or its advancements comes into play. So generative AI, since this could not only the text, it can generate images, it can generate sounds, it can generate music, and I don't know how many of you are music enthusiasts now. There are so many machine learning and the deep learning algorithms are available to you. You can feed your voice, and then you can feed a song and say, in my voice, can you play this song, and it will do that for you. And how many of you are familiar with David Guetta? Everyone knows him because he created some of the cool songs, and then he's using some of these algorithms now to be able to come up with new things. So it's not just text, but images, and as well as pictures, and then songs and music and everything that you can generate. So the way these generative networks work, there are two distinct algorithms in there. One is create a scenario, and then adversarial network will actually say that, is this scenario generated by the generative AI, is it realistic? So Prashant can fly. The adversarial network says Prashant is a human, he can't fly, this answer is wrong. So as it goes through these data sets, continually learning and say that what is the right, what is the quote unquote possible, probable scenario, and then it will generate that. So the more data, the more parameters that you supply to these generative network or these LLMs, large language models, it understands what is the possible scenario. That's why when you feed into a question into a ChatGPT, it may sound fantastic and very right, but then it completely bogus, because it's not there yet in terms of understanding what is real and what is not, and it will make it sound like real. So this is the challenge. And then adversarial networks, and as you feed more and more parameters, more news information, more details that you send, more algorithms and more articles that you send, it begins to evolve significantly. And this has been happening for a long time now. So you can imagine these LLMs are now close to human intelligence that's possible. And this is one of the reasons why a bunch of technocrats are, people like Sundar Pichai and Mark Zuckerberg and all these, big wigs put out a note saying that we got to control this, because with the amount of computing power and everything that is being thrown at this technology now, the rate of learning is exponential at this point in time. But anyway, I digress. So let's quickly jump into what is generative AI. It refers to machine learning algorithms designed to generate new and original content based on a set of input data. It looks like it is real, but is it real? It depends on the scenario, and most of the time it sounds like real, but it might not be. So this is why you still yet today cannot rely on this technology completely, right? But then if you provide factual information and say, give me a prediction, and again it's a prediction, is it real? It's a prediction. I don't know whether it could be real or not. It's going to be tomorrow's inventory prediction. So these are some of the areas that we will look into to see where enterprises can use this to make their effect on their business, so that they can enjoy the better outcomes. So GPT is only one type of the machine learning algorithm. There are several. There is a transformer XL, there is BERT, there is XLNet, there is T5, text-to-text transformer. So GPT is only one model. So essentially what we are saying is that as the days go by, the technology is evolving at a much faster rate, and they are using artificial intelligence to create the new mechanisms to learn about new things. So the growth rate here is going to be dramatically different. So now, for example, the whole point here is that when an enterprise is trying to use this technology to advance their agenda, or whether it is revenue or increasing the customer base or increasing diversity in their workforce, there are several human resources and teams or departments across the organizations begin to use this technology to evaluate resumes, right? I remember this one kid, one of my daughter's classmate. This kid is so smart, he would actually put in his resume skills that he does not have, but then he would change them to white font. Just imagine this. I was shocked by this. I said, why are you doing it? He says that my resume gets picked up even though I don't have any of these skills. Once I go to the interview, I'll wow the guys, I'll get the job. I was like, man, these kids are smart. But then machine learning is now beginning to look at that and then figure out what's going on there. So there are several examples of this nature, which in my life, I wouldn't have imagined it. Why somebody would do something like that? In a PDF file, white font, you can't see in the background, but then a machine learning algorithm will pick it up and then put his resume as, oh, he's the top candidate. When you read it, it doesn't. Anyway, so I digress. Essentially now let's get into, for retailers, let's focus on the retailers for a second. It's a once in a generation opportunity. Why? We all know how we like to be serviced or supported by retailers. I want things to be very specific to me. Based on what I'm buying from you, I want you to tell me if the next sale comes before anyone sees it. Personalization and requirement for my specific needs to be met is very important. So for retailers, using this technology can really differentiate the way they can approach. Whether it is predicting there is a snowstorm coming and then we need to really have these parkas, right? And then we need to make them available, delivery within 12 hours. Can that make a difference for my sales? right? Or I need to, 6 months down the road, we know that based on this type of weather patterns, 6 months down the road, there could be a, some kind of a weather event where this type of inventory that I need to have in stock. So let me put an order with my supplier 4 months in advance to say that I need you to deliver these for me at this point in time. Can that change their revenue model? Can it influence their ability to improve the profitability? It could be. So these are some of the things, like these are some of the examples. Predictive, predict inventory demand patterns that, like I was just talking about. Streamline online shopping experience, like Prashant, every time he walks in, he buys this and then plus this. If Prashant is coming into my e-commerce website, let's make sure I put those orders in front of him so that he can click and then keep going, right? So that's personalization, and then experience that every one of us require or want is distinct from one another. So can the machine learning understand that pattern? It's simple pattern, right? Every time he comes in to buy the diapers, he will actually buy the formula, right? So those are patterns that it can generate, and then when someone is trying to look for it, they can actually generate that, right? Instantaneous customer feedback analysis. He goes online and says that this retailer sucks. As soon as I put that message, can somebody from the customer support or the customer satisfaction office call me back and say that, Prashant, what's wrong? How can we help you? Let me give you 50% discount on the item that you bought. Just imagine that. I would praise them, So there is different things that they can actually do instead of somebody sitting there looking at this feedback a month later, trying to call the customer back versus instantaneous responses that they can provide, right? Personalizing shopping experience, we talked about this already. And automate routine, customer inquiries. Hey, do you have this in stock? This would be an item. And then in stock is that they're asking, inquiring. Can, as soon as a chatbot entry comes in, you go out there, you can go into your inventory system, there's an API you call, and then you say that it's available to you. You are living in Richmond Hill, Ontario. It is, the Canadian Tire right next to you, about 2 kilometers away. You have 5 of them in aisle 5 on the top section. Go pick it up. Or do you want us to deliver to you? If we want to deliver to you, then it's going to be tomorrow. If you want to pick it up, it's easy. It's right there on the shelf, and then we'll give you 10% discount if you go pick it up in the next 5 hours. Just imagine that, the ability to change. So these are the inquiries automated. Tailored communication with your customer. I'm calling very upset. A vectorization of my voice could be made and recognize my emotion as angry, then instantaneously goes to the escalation manager in the call center, let's say, if it is banking or it's a high worth client base. So there are things that could be done with this technology that are impossible to imagine in the past, or even though it's a blue sky thinking, ability to adopt that could be a little bit difficult. So I'll go quickly now. There is a lot of talking. There's so many opportunities here: product design, personalization, marketing, inventory management, right? Fraud detection, ability to use artificial intelligence in many, many ways. You need to know how you can use this technology and then go from there. So now, hold your horses. It's fantastic that AI can do all these things for you, but you must have, a rogue programmer can go out there and then supply all my enterprise data to the ChatGPT and then say that, hey, can I can get an amazing result from it. But then guess what I'm doing? As a rogue programmer, I'm giving all my enterprise details out to an LLM, which can learn, and then subsequently that information becomes available publicly. How many of you know about Samsung getting into trouble with this? So very few of you, but then essentially what happened is that Samsung allowed their programmers to use ChatGPT to improve the efficiency of their code. Little that they realized that ChatGPT now owns that code. You have given it the information to do something, and then they used it. So that was a big no-no, because the secrecy of those programs is very important for them. So these are some of the examples that were there that responsible AI is going to be really important, especially for retailers. Fairness and bias. Every time I go in, they're sending me a curry ad, I'm going to get pissed. The hell, right? So things of that nature are, you need to think through. LLMs can do that for you, but that doesn't necessarily mean it is the right thing to do. A person who's always getting rejected for mortgage, why is this happening? So fairness, data privacy and privacy and data protection is very important. When you are using these algorithms and when you are using these technologies, what methodologies or what methods that you put in this data privacy breach does not happen. User content and empowerment. That means that I have to be able to say that you can use my data to give me some suggestions, or I say that I don't trust you. I don't want any of my data to be used in this. I should be able to given that ability. And transparency and explainability. When you are sending me an ad, or when you're rejecting my mortgage, or when you're rejecting my credit application, how did you come to reject that? What is your rationale? You need to be able to explain it to me. Otherwise, you're looking for a class action lawsuit, right? So accountability and governance, like who's responsible for establishing these rules in the enterprise? Who owns this area? Who needs to, there is accountability is very, very important. So safety and reliability, when we are generating this type of recommendation, how safe they are. Can you sell a Jack Daniels for a 16-year-old? Probably not. But if that's what it's doing in terms of personalization, because not recognizing the fact that he's a 16-year-old, you're going to get into a lot of trouble, right? Collaboration with industry experts. Always have an eye to the industry open, so that and your ears, so that you're actually listening to what type of challenges people are experiencing by using this technology, making sure that input is always considered, right? So social and environmental impact. We actually are promoting a lot more, certain type of product that will create some kind of environmental damage. I didn't know that is not going to be an answer. They're going to say that, oh, how come you didn't know about it? Oh, it just came out. It doesn't matter. Reputational risk is already, you're ruined that for your enterprise. So continuous monitoring and improvement. Models, even though they are LLMs and then these artificial intelligence, the efficacy of the model drops for the intended purpose. What that means is that you're trying to do certain things, but then it is giving you results that are not matching to your values, principles, and then things like that. So you might not want to do it. You need to monitor them continually to see what we are able to do. So these are, these are some of the principles that I could think of, right? But then your enterprise may have completely different view on how it needs to be done. So what I'm trying to say is that every enterprise must look into what type of principles that I need to put in place to make sure I'm using this technology appropriately. So I spent a little bit of time here because it's important. So what do I need to consider? So from now, leaving all those principles, establishing them aside, so in order for you to begin to use this technology, you need to have seamless integration of complex data. Polyglot data, that means all types of data that you can bring in. Now think about vectorization. Once you can do vectorization, voice, images, can customer take a picture and upload it and say, do you have this in inventory? Oh, the system can say, we don't exactly have that, but we have something very similar. Can it do that? When you talk into it, can it recognize the fact? So you need to have ability, scalability, performance, distributed architecture, because these things require tremendous capacity to do processing. So can your system go up? All of a sudden, you now have voice activated inquiries available for your e-commerce website, and everybody is talking to it. And it is December 20th, and everybody wants to buy, and then you enable this. Can your system scale? Black Friday, can your system scale, right? And these days, Kim Kardashian put something out on the internet, and then everybody wants to buy it now, all the fans. Can your system handle it? So essentially what I'm trying to say is that there are key events that we used to know from history, what is important, when the demand will go up. But these days, every day could be a Black Friday because of the way the world is changing, right? So fully managed, because you don't want to sit there and then continually improve your capacity of your clusters. It needs to be fully managed, like something like, essentially I'm building up to say that use Mongodb. Right? So that's, let me go quickly. So typical retail data estate looks like that. You have data silos, you have legacy databases, you have quality of the data is really bad because you need to make sure, like I was talking earlier, bad quality, bad results. So privacy and security, can your environment secure, and it can ensure the privacy of your customer base. And then last but not least is the compliance. You need to make sure that your data estate really takes care of all these things. Any one of them means bad results. This is a beautiful picture. fantastic, but then again, it's spaghetti where you have different architectures of applications require different technologies. So I'm just going to move quickly. How to use generative AI in retail is this is a picture where now you have data sources. You either use the vectorization or moving other data into your MongoDB cluster, and then customer asks a question saying that through voice, text, or images, saying that, hey, can I have this particular item available? Then next thing you know is that you will actually use that to go into your data, provides the right context. Your data, enterprise data, provides the right context for your customer, right? So you use that contextual data, and then you actually, this is where prompt engineering and prompt design comes into play, especially with LLMs. So these are the two areas that distinctly known as prompt engineering and prompt design. Prompt design is simply asking an LLM to give you an output, and it needs to have the right context, it needs to have the right intention, it needs to have the right output that you're expecting. And that prompt, if you say that, give me a song, ChatGPT will give you 1,000 songs, but what kind of a genre you want this song to be in, right? Things like that. So it becomes very important that prompt design is going to need to be designed appropriately. So example use case here, again the same thing. Customer using voice, text, or images will upload saying that, hey, I need something. Then the prompt is fed with the query of the customer context, and it will retrieve from your MongoDB Atlas, your data sets that you have, and then it actually will create a prompt. And then this is actually an example that I was playing with, where you can send it in to using your API key to generative AI, and it will develop, it will produce an output for you with that specific code. So I not only talk about it, I just wanted to share with you. And I have used this example to create the synthetic data for a retail customer. I took an existing transactional data set, used the prompt, and then created a data set that is a mimicking of the real world. So there are many use cases that you can use this in. And let's quickly go into what is the advantage of development with LLM. So before you jump into, like I talked about, the responsibilities of AI, you need to create the principles that will be governing this whole process. And traditional development, you need to train your models. You need to make sure that the data is available and loaded. You need compute power. You need all kinds of environmental details that you need to manage, maintain, and then use. Whereas with the development with the LLMs, time and cost savings, because you don't need that infrastructure. There are pre-trained APIs that you can use, right? But again, there are several things. Reduce data requirements. Once you train your model, even though you have very specific model that you're training, subsequently you don't need to train anymore because it can begin to learn from data sets that are available to it. Scalability and easy integration. You wanted to expand these use cases to not only personalization, but 10 other things, you could do that, right? So MongoDB actually works with a very rich ecosystem of the, with all the what do you call, like ML providers, machine learning providers. So you could use MongoDB as part of your AI platform. Like Sahid this morning in keynote was talking about, we're already AI Innovators Program providing this kind of support to them. And we already have several, like Hugging Face, using MongoDB as the repository for the data. Okay, this is one thing that I wanted to really call out on, is due to increasing emphasis on the privacy and regulation, this is a call to action, because many of the retailers or many of the enterprises are using third-party cookies to manage and maintain the customer information. They buy the third-party cookies data, and they will use that in the marketing campaigns. Guess what? Starting 2024, Safari, Google Chrome, Firefox, and all these Mozilla browsers will not take the third-party cookies anymore. So that means an enterprise must develop its own customer data platform. Again, like I said, data is the key that allows you to be able to come up with these kinds of personalization and other things. So essentially, you need to have a platform that allows you to create this kind of data structures within yourself, because becoming completely self-sufficient is extremely key, so that you don't rely on external data, you don't buy the external data anymore, but you are actually building your own. Creating the niche to your enterprise is very important, to have that data sets that you own, you don't share. Sounds bad. I won't say this to my kids, but do not share. Well, the emphasis on the first-party consumer data. So this is essentially what I wanted to call out, and call to action. It's more details about the same thing. There are some websites that I put there as to where this is informed. So I hope this was helpful, useful, and again, like I said, this is a very high-level 101. And if there are more questions, I'd be more than happy to talk to you guys after the session. So thank you. Thanks, guys. Oh, sorry. Please provide the feedback. That's very important for us.